In this video, I'm going to talk about dimensioning the bracket 1433. So you can see the bracket right now, and I went through here and did a quick count. I think there's approximately 27 dimensions on this. So once we get our views placed, we want to make sure we get all 27 dimensions on there. So I have that sketch and I have my trusty highlighter, and as I place each dimension, I'm going to highlight it, and hopefully we'll get them all on there. So let's get started. So I have Inventor open, and I've opened up a prototype drawing, and this prototype drawing is a B size sheet at 17 by 11, and it already has a title block on it and some things like that. So it's one of the prototypes we use here in this class. So hopefully you've been able to find it. This is called AnyCAD B prototype, and I think it's actually called AnyCAD Inventor B prototype. So let's get started. We're going to place some views. So I've already modeled bracket 1433. And so I want to go to my Place Views tab and pick on Base. And I'm going to search. And what I want to look for is bracket 1433 IPT. It's this guy right here. And pick Open. Now, I'm going to place that as what I want for my principal view is actually the top of this view right here. So when I see the view cube, I'm going to pick on the triangle right above it and turn that like that. And I'm going to drag this over. I don't want it to be shaded, and I want it to be a little bigger than what I'm seeing right there. I actually want it to be 3 equals 4. And so 3 equals 4 is 3/4 scale. So you can type 3 equals 4 right down here, or you can type 0.75, whichever one you want to do. And then I'm going to kind of move it around a little bit and get it where I like it, and pick OK. So there's my front view. I'm going to pick on the projected view tool, and I'm going to pick, and I'm going to drag right over into here, and I'm going to pick and right click my mouse and choose Create, and create my right side view. And now I want to put what will be essentially a bottom view on this, but I want that to be a full section view. So I'm going to drag my front view up a little bit so I can have plenty of room down here. And so when I'm going to come up here to my tools, and I'm going to choose on the section tool. And if you need to, you might have to pick on this view. Inventor's not asking me to select the view right now, so it's already chosen this view. So here's what's important is that you put your cursor at the quadrant of this arc right here, and don't pick, just let it acquire that point and then move out a little ways. And this is where your arrow of your cutting plane line is actually going to be located. So I'm going to move out a ways and pick. Then I'm going to go back through my part. And remember, this is my cutting plane line. So I'm going to slice this thing right down the middle of that line right there. And it's really not a line. Think of it as a three-dimensional plane that's slicing my part in half. Now, I want to also make sure that that line is showing the perpendicular symbol out near the cursor there. I want to make sure that this line is not at an angle, because Inventor will cut your view at an angle if you draw your line and it's not a horizontal line. So again, I want to move out of ways because this is where I want my arrowhead to be for my cutting plane line. So I'm going to pick right there, and then I'm going to right click and choose Continue. And immediately I'm going to drag straight down below that. And you can see there's a couple of letters here, this EE thing and some other things. And I really don't want to see that stuff. So I'm going to go right up here where it says E, and I'm going to put a space right there so that it'll take out the EE when it goes in there. And I want this to be full depth. It's going to be 3/4. Go ahead and leave it 3/4. Anyway, just move down below and pick, and it's going to put in this view. Now this section 3/4 you don't need, so you can double click on that, and just highlight all that and delete it out and pick OK if you want. There's other ways to control labeling on these guys, and it just depends on where you're seeing labels, like in here, or sometimes with section views, when you double click on the view where the cutting plane line is where you're going to find some of your labels, and you may have to turn them off up there. So this is what I want it to look like, though. I don't need any labeling on my section view because it's in the normal projected position, and if it's there, I don't need to put any labeling on it. So this is my cutting plane lineup right here. And the interesting thing is that Inventor calls that a section line, and that's actually incorrect. It should be a cutting plane line. The section lines are actually these angled lines down here that we think of as cross-hatching or whatever. Those are section lines. All right, so we're ready to start adding dimensions to this guy. And so one of the things I'm going to start with, I'm going to go to my Annotate tab, and I'm going to put some center marks in. So I'm going to choose on center mark, and I'm going to pick this arc and this circle right there so I can get the center mark in there. I'm going to pick on the edge of that threaded hole and get that center mark there. And let's see, I will need a center mark for that arc, and I will need a center mark for this large hole that I have right there. Now you can automate your center lines, but I just wanted to show you, if you want to choose them individually, how you can place them on there and manipulate them a little bit. Now the other lines that we need are center lines that go through these holes. And so we're going to use centerline bisector when we do that one. So I'm going to pick on centerline bisector. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to pick on the top of that hole and the bottom of the hole. And I'm going to pick on the side of this hole and the side of this hole over here. I'm going to pick on the side of this hole, the side of that hole, and get that guy in there. There's actually, you see these 4 hidden lines right here. Those represent this hole, which is a threaded hole in the side view. So I'm going to pick that line and pick that line, so it puts the center line right in halfway between those, or in other words, it bisects it, and that's why this is called centerline bisector. All right, I'm going to press escape. Now I want to fine tune these center marks, and so if you go onto your center mark and you right click and you go to edit center mark style, it takes a second, but a dialog box is going to open up. And when it does, what I recommend doing is coming here and changing A to 0.1. Now I think the default is 0.25, so you might see 0.25. I would recommend changing that to 0.1. And then the gap, which is B, which is this increment right here, this is A and this is B. I recommend setting that to 0.05. So 5/100ths or 50,000ths of an inch. The overshoot, 0.125, I think that's the default. And the extension, which is D, which is right down here, that says 0.157. I'm just going to leave that stuff alone. And I'm going to pick save and close. And since that's a global setting, it's going to affect all of the center lines, including these center lines over here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is connect these center lines. So I'm just going to, you can see there's a center mark right there. I'm going to grab that and just take it to about right there. I still want to leave this gap, and I want to extend this guy out approximately 1/4 of an inch past the edge. And I want these lines here to come out 1/4 of an inch as well. Same thing with this. You would want to make sure that this is extended up 1/4 and this is extended down 1/4. You put some dimensions on that, and that these guys are extended out. And now I want to come down here and look at these. So I'm going to move that guy out 1/4 inch and move it out on this side 1/4 inch. If you go too far, it might break like that. I don't really like that. So I'm going to move back in until it snaps and gives me a continuous line. Same way over here, going to move you up, pull this one down a bit, do the same thing on this side. So I'm fine tuning the look of those center lines. All right, so now I'm ready to start putting some dimensions on. So let's just focus on the top view first, since that was our principal view. I'm going to put a dimension in from this corner here at the top to the center of that hole, and I'm going to move outside my cutting plane line and place a 1.5 like that. I'm going to use a hole and thread note because that's how I created this counter bore. And I'm going to pick right there. I'm going to move this guy right up into here and pick. I can fine tune it later if I need to. I need to use hole and thread note for that hole right there. And I'm going to bring that guy up in here. Maybe line those up a little bit to just make it look good. The other thing is you see the angle of the leader. If you sort of make those parallel, that will help things look good as well. So I'm going to highlight those 3 dimensions on my sketch because now I know I have those, and so I've accounted for them. I'm going to go to dimension. I'm going to go from this corner to this corner, and I'm going to move out beyond the right side of where my cutting plane arrow is. I'm going to move out to here, and you'll notice an Inventor can snap, and if you want, you can snap it like that. And then I want to continue with another dimension. Now, you can actually use continue, but I'm just going to use dimension again, and I'm going to go from this corner to this corner here, and I'm going to snap that. So I've got the 0.75 and the 1.5, and the designer sketch does not give me this dimension here, so I don't want to add that unless I make it a reference, which would mean to put it in parentheses. But what the designer sketch does give me is this dimension here to this corner here, and so I want to move outside that, find the snap point, let that snap in like that. Then I'm going to press escape. Now, I don't like dimensions to be in line like that, where they're kind of crowded. So what I'm going to recommend is letting it be at its snap point, but offsetting those dimensions a little bit. You could go up or you could go down. I'm going to move mine up like that. I'm going to highlight it. Down here at the bottom of the view, I want a dimension from the center of this hole to the center of this hole. I'm going to let that find the snap point and snap in there like that. Now, I don't like this gap, so I'm actually going to pick right here. I think I'm going to press escape first. I'm going to go to my center mark. I'm going to find that dot, and I'm going to just drag it down and pick right down here. So it fills in that gap that I had. Now I need another dimension, and this dimension will go from the center of this hole to this visible line right here. And I want to line those up perfectly. So if you find a snap, let's see if I do that snap and see if this guy snaps as well. Pick OK, press escape. Let's see where this snaps at. So they may not snap, but I want those to be aligned. So whatever this spacing is that I'm using right here, I want to be consistent with that when I put it on other dimensions or other views. This spacing here is a little different because I had to get out to the right of my cutting plane line arrow. But, you know, nothing's really crowded in here, so that's looking pretty good. I do want to put a radius on this guy right here, so I'm going to pick dimension. I'm going to choose radius, and I'm going to put it out here in space. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different on this radius of 1.5. That's approximately a radius of 1.5, but really the width of this part is defined by this dimension right here, 3.00. So it's taken to 2 decimal places. And when I look at my tolerances, any dimension that's taken to 2 decimal place has a tolerance of plus or minus 0.01, which is 1/100th of an inch or 10 thousandths of an inch. If you imagine there's a 0 right there. So anything to 2 decimal places has a tolerance of plus or minus 0.01 or 10 thou. That means that the width of this part could be 3.01 or it could be 2.99 and anywhere in between there, and that would pass inspection. And whatever that is, I want this arc to match that. I want it to be the full radius of that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to double click on this, and right up here it says hide dimension value. I'm going to check that box, and right in here I'm going to override what it said there, and I'm going to type, I want to make sure it's all caps, full R. So I want the full radius on this guy, whatever it is based on what the tolerance allows it to be. So I'm going to pick OK. So that's a little bit different. We're going to say full R. And the other thing, when you have a large radius like that, it's better if it starts at the center of where it begins. And so this radius here and the center of these holes are all the same, and we say they're concentric. So they're all concentric. So what I'm going to do is go onto this full R, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to pick options, and I'm going to select arrowheads inside, and that changes the orientation of that arrow, and that's preferred right there. All right, so I've highlighted all those things. So let's go over here and let's look at this view we have on this side. I have a dimension from this corner to the center of that hole, and I'm going to let it snap right there and pick. And that's going to be 2. I'm going to highlight that. I need another full R dimension on this guy. So, but I'm going to put in a dimension from here to the center like that. Bring that guy out 1.5. I'm going to do a dimension on this radius. I'm going to bring it out like that. And I'm going to right click on that. Actually, I have to press escape first. I'm going to right click, go to options, go to arrow inside. Then I'm going to double click on that dimension. I'm going to check hide dimension value, and I'm going to type full, put my cursor in there, full R, pick OK. And now I'm going to go through my highlighter and highlight those 3 dimensions. I have a whole note on this. I'm going to pick right here and bring that whole note down into here. So now I'm seeing that the full R and the whole note are a little close together. So I'm actually going to press escape, and I'm going to drag my full R dimension around a little bit and sort of get it out of the way so it's not quite as crowded in here. I might even bring this in a little bit like that. So now that I have my whole note in there, I'm going to highlight it, and I need to add some geometric dimensioning and tolerancing to this. And so the first one that I want to do is put my datum identifier. So when you click on this down arrow right here, if you don't see the datum identifier, you may have to, go scroll up or down. This is my datum identifier. I want to pick on that edge right there and move out a little ways like that, and then pick. And this is going to be datum A according to my sketch. So I'm just going to pick OK. I'm going to leave that guy right there. Now this datum identifier can be put down here, or it can be on this edge anywhere. But the one place it can't be in line with this dimension right here, because that actually infers something that we don't want to infer there. What it would infer is that datum A is actually the midplane between this edge here and this edge here. And so I'm not going to go into the details of that, but I just want to point out that you have to offset this one side or the other. So you can put it there, you could put it there where it's a little crowded. So you could leave it like that if you want. I'm going to highlight that. Or like I said, you could just put it anywhere along this back edge. So that's datum A. And now I have a GDT feature control frame that needs to go right here next to this 1-inch diameter hole, which is that smaller hole in the counterbore. So here's feature control frame. And so when you put a feature control frame in, the one that I want to put here, I don't want it to have a leader or an arrowhead or anything. So I'm just going to go into the field of my drawing, and I'm going to pick, and then right click my mouse and pick continue. And that's going to open up the feature control frame like that. And my first symbol that I want to use is parallelism. So there's the parallel symbol right there. And then what I want is a diameter. So I'm going to pick right here and pick the diameter symbol. And then my tolerance is 0.005, so 5/1000ths of an inch. And then I want that to say A, and I don't need any other datums out here. So I want to get rid of those guys. So I've got parallel 0.005 relative to A. That's what I'm seeing right here. I should just be able to pick OK at that point. All right, so I'm going to press escape because I don't need to place another one. So let me grab this. So what it implies here is that the center axis of this hole has to fit inside a 0.005 diameter cylindrical tolerance zone, and the cylindrical tolerance zone is perfectly parallel to datum A. So the tolerance occurs, imagine that you have a circle right here that's 0.005 in diameter, and it's really not a circle, it's the end of a cylinder that's 0.005 in diameter, and the center axis of this diameter 1.00 hole has to run through that cylinder right there. That's how to interpret the GD&T, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, on that hole. All right, so I'm going to highlight that now because I have it. And so now I'm going to focus on this front view down here. And one of the things I want to do is put an overall width diameter on this. So I'm going to use the dimension tool and go from that corner to that corner right there and bring this right up into here. And one of the things that the sketch indicated is that this is a reference dimension, so it's in parentheses. So what I want to do is press escape and double click on that, and then click on the dimension and tolerance tab right here and choose reference, and then pick OK. And that's going to put that in parentheses. Now I need some dimensions. I need a dimension from this corner to this corner here. I'm going to put that like up in there, and I can see that's too crowded, so I'm going to have to move some things around, I can tell. And then I want to put a dimension from this corner to this corner here and snap it into place. And I would highlight those two guys, and I would highlight the 8. And then over here on this side, I want a dimension from this corner to that corner and let it snap like that. And I'm going to put another dimension from this corner to the top of that arc and bring that straight out and let it, if it snaps, there it goes, it snapped into place. But that is a reference. So I'm going to press escape and double click on that. Go to the precision and tolerance tab and choose reference. Excuse me, pick OK. I'm going to highlight both of those guys. And then I just have a few more of these left, but I'm a little, concerned about the spacing that I have in here. I know that this guy is going to need to go up. So if I want to put it, let it snap like right there, then it's on top of these other things. So I can do a couple of things. One is I can move this view down a little bit, and I can maybe move this view up just a little bit. I don't want to get these guys up here into that border, so I can always bring them in just a little, start fine-tuning things. And I could probably drag this guy out just a little bit over there. But if you drag it out, you need to move the feature control frame and put it right next to the diameter 1, because this only applies to the diameter 1. It does not apply to the counterbore diameter down here. All right, so now this spacing is looking more consistent between my views here. I can maybe bring that down a little bit. Actually, that looks pretty good. So I'm trying to get uniform spacing where I can, just to make my drawing look good, because I want my drawings to be the best drawings in the room, because if they have a layoff, I don't want them to lay me off. I want them to think that I'm the best drafter they have, and they don't want to get rid of me. All right, so we need a couple more linear dimensions and an angular dimension. So I'm going to do a dimension here, and what I'm going to choose is the bottom edge. And usually when I choose, I don't like to pick where, if a dot lights up, I usually don't want that dot. I want to move to the side. I'm going to pick there, and then I'm going to pick on this line that runs at a 45-degree angle. And again, I don't want to get at a dot. I want the line to be highlighted, but I'm going to pick like right there. And by doing that, I can get that 45-degree angle, and I'm going to place it like right in here. Then I'm going to press escape, and I'm going to drag the 45 up so it's not on my part. And then I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go back to text, and I'm going to put my cursor there and then press my left arrow so that I can get my cursor in front of the text, and I'm going to write 2 and a capital X and a space. So when I pick OK, you'll see that I'm going to have 2x space 45 degrees right down here. Now, actually, do I need a 2x? Oh, I don't need a 2x on this one. I apologize for that. I don't need 2x on that. All right, it's getting a little overzealous there with my dimensioning. So that I want to be 45 degrees, so I'm going to highlight that. I have 2 more dimensions, I believe, to go on this guy, and then some more GD&T. So one of my dimensions is going to be from this point here to this point and bring it straight out in this direction. That is going to be a 1. That's for the height of that. And then one of the driving reasons for doing this section view is to dimension the width of this slot that's cut through right up here, because that slot cuts through at an angle. The slot actually cuts through perpendicular to this plane, this 45-degree plane. So we say the slot is cut normal to that surface. It's normal to that plane. So I'm going to put a dimension in, and I'm going to put the dimension from that corner right there to this intersection right there. And I want to move it out, and I would like that to be out here at an angle. So I'm going to have to right-click and go to Dimension Type and pick Aligned. Aligned looks like that. It's aligned to the angle. So I'm going to bring this guy out here into space away from the other dimensions and pick right about there. And then I'm going to press Escape. Now you can actually drag that guy up, like put it above, and you can get a landing on that. And I would prefer to have a landing on that. It can drag out to this side and have a landing as well. That's a little close in there, so I might try to drag that guy out just a little bit more, but I still want to bring this back in, and I want to have a landing on the leader right there. Okay, so this is looking a little close in here, so I'm going to drag the 1 out just a little bit further like that. So then I'm going to highlight the 1 and the 0.75, and I think I've got all my dimensions. I just have a little more GD&T to go on this guy. And so I have a perpendicularity, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing on this surface here, and the bottom surface right down here is datum A, and then I have a flatness GD&T on this bottom surface down here. So let's go ahead and put in the datum first. And so we can pick on this extension line, for example, if we want, and we can bring that guy out like that and then pick OK. Now, that's a little crowded down here on my title block, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag it out a little bit, then I'm going to pick on this dot and drag it straight up and pick here and see if I can drag it. I want it to be above the line like that. And then I'm going to drag right here and drag it down so it looks kind of in proportion to everything else. So what that's doing, it's establishing that the bottom edge of this part is going to come in contact with datum plane A when this is inspected. So I'm going to highlight datum A, and then I'm going to put a geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. I need a feature control frame, and this time I do want a leader on it, so I'm going to pick on this edge, and I'm just going to move out like this and pick, and then right click and choose continue. And my symbol is going to be perpendicular like that right there. There is no, there should not be any diameter symbol in this, but the tolerance is 0.005. So I don't want to tolerance a 0 in front of that. And I want this to be relative to A. And so I think all that looks good. So I'm going to pick OK. And I'm going to highlight that. And the last thing I'm going to do is put a flatness tolerance on the bottom of this. So I'm just going to pick on this edge and move off like this out a little bit. I don't want to go below my title block right here, so I'm going to move up just a little bit. I'm going to pick like right there and right click continue. And this time my symbol is going to be flatness, and my tolerance is 0.005, so I can keep my 5/1000ths of an inch, but there's no datum, so I'm going to delete the datum on that and pick OK. So there's my flatness, and then I'm going to press escape and get out of that guy. All right. Now I've got a couple of other notes that I want to put in here. So I have a filleted corner here and a filleted corner here. And either I need to put a dimension on there, like say 2x R13, or You can also, when you have fillets and they're all the same, you could even add a note for that. So I'm going to double click right here, and I'm going to type 2 and a period, and then I put a couple of spaces in there. And the first thing I'm going to write is what the material is. And when I look at the sketch, it says 6061 AL. So 6061 is aluminum. So you can type 6061 aluminum. It's an alloy of aluminum. Then press enter and type 3 and a period. And I'm going to put a couple of spaces in there. And I'm going to type UOS, which stands for unless otherwise specified. And this is actually an approved abbreviation by ASME. I'm going to type fillets R, that's the letter R for the radius, 0.13, and pick OK. All right, now I may have to move that up, but I like to put the notes to the left of the title block like this right here. So now I have my material and I know what my fillets are. So I'm going to highlight those. Then I have this general note about interpreting the drawing per the ASME standards. So this is the standard for interpreting views, 14100, and then for dimensioning, for interpreting dimensions, it's ASME Y14.5-2009. Okay, so of course you want to save this and name it as bracket 1433.idw because this is an inventor drawing, and so the extension is an IDW. Now, here's a couple of things I want you to watch out for. If you look at this dimension right here, this is a dimension that is less than 1. I want you to look at yours. Is there a 0 in front of it? If there is, then you have what's called a leading 0, and you shouldn't have leading zeros on dimensions that are less than 1 inch if you're using the imperial system. So you're dimensioning in inches and not millimeters. So if you have a 0 here, you need to turn that 0 off. And here's how you do that. Go on to the dimension and right click and choose Edit Dimension Style. And in a second, that'll open up. It's kind of slow. And what you want to do is pick on the Units tab right here, and then look right here where it says leading 0. If yours has a check, uncheck it and pick Save and Close. And that will take out any leading zeros that you have there. Now, if you look up here into your feature control frame, if you have a leading 0 here in front of 0.005, you need to do the same thing. So you're going to right click on that, except this time you're going to pick Edit Feature Control Frame Style. Pick on that. And when the dialog box opens, you'll actually pick on the word Units right here on that tab, and you'll want to uncheck leading zeros over here. And then I'm going to go back to General. Now, if I can move this out of the way, I want to show you something. When we're editing the feature control frame style, the size of the box that you see is based on the text height inside the box. And so if your box is a lot bigger than the one that you're seeing here, and if the text is bigger than your dimension text, then you need to come in and edit this. And the way to edit it is to pick on the General tab, and it says right over here that the symbol size, and that's your rectangle, is scaled to the text height. So if you want it to be scaled to the text height, what you want to do is change your text height. And so you'll come over here and there's like a pencil, and you pick on that, and right here it says text height, and I think the default is 0.2, which is taller than what I have. What you want to do is match this to the height of your dimensions. So if you're using 0.125 for your dimension height, then change it right here to 0.125, and then pick Save and Close. And then the size of the box should change, and that should change on every one of these boxes when you do that. Same thing if you turn off the leading 0, it will turn it off in every one of your feature control frame boxes. If your datum identifier looks too big, it's the same thing. You need to change the text to match your text height of your dimensions. So you would right click on that, go to Edit ID Style, and when the dialog box opens up, what you want to do is come right down here, because it's also being defined by the text height. So you're going to go to the pencil icon, click on that, go to text height and set that to 0.125 or whatever you have your text height for your dimensions set to, and pick Save and Close, and then they will scale and they'll be the same right there. Now, if you want to know what your dimension height is, you can right click on it and you can go to Edit Dimension Style. And when that opens, mine look like they're a little bit different. I'll show you why that looks that way. If you click on Text, you can see that my text height for my dimensions, I have it set to 0.120 instead of 0.125. So I don't have them quite matching right now. I probably need to go back in and change. I'm going to keep this at 0.120. I could change it to 0.125, and then it would match all my feature control frames and datum identifiers. But I'm going to just leave this guy at 0.120 and pick OK. So that would mean I could go in here and right click on this and go to Edit ID Style. And when that opens, I could pick on this pencil and change this to 0.12. So it's going to be a little bit smaller, and pick Save. And now they actually match exactly. And I think this one's the same way. It's a little bit too big, so I'm going to pick on it. And when that guy opens, I will pick on this pencil right here and set this to 0.12 and pick Save and Close. And that updates all of them. So they've all been updated now. And so if it changes size, it might move a little bit. So make sure it lines up. So I'm highlighting everything, make sure that I have all of my dimensions. Hopefully I've got them all in here. One thing I would like to put in here is an isometric view. And I'm going to set the isometric view scale to 1/2 as well, while everything else is 3/4. So I'm going to go to Place Views. And for my base view, I'm going to pick on Base View. And of course, I still want the bracket 1433. I'm going to pick Open. And I'm going to look at my view cube, and I'm going to choose my home view, because I think I had my home view set like that. Now, you can also project this view off of one of your other views up here, but this is the orientation that I want it to be at. I want it to be shaded, and I want it to be 1/2 scale, because if I make it 3/4 scale like everything else, it's going to be a little large. So I'm going to pick OK. And there's that guy in there. And so when I zoom in on it, you can see that, you see these lines right here? Those are tangent edges, and I don't like for the tangent edges to show. You could go onto a tangent edge and right click and uncheck visibility. But another way is just double click on your view, go to Display Options and uncheck Tangent Edges and pick OK. That turns all of your tangent edges off. And then I'm going to go to Annotate, and I'm going to go to Text, and I'm going to draw a text box right here. And what I'm going to type in here is that the isometric scale, because this is an isometric drawing, and then a colon, is 1 space equals space 2 for 1/2 scale, and pick OK. Now, I don't like that it's kind of crowded like that, so I'm going to press Escape. I want to click on that, and I want to drag it, make that box larger, and then I want to drag it over so it's right next to my view, about right there. All right. And of course, then I would save again. So now I've got my isometric scale. So in here, I want this to say 3/4 scale. I want this to say bracket 1433 and all that. So you remember that the way we do that, we go to our sheet over here and we find the title block. So you may have to expand. You may have to even expand the entire sheet like that. Expand the sheet, find your title block and expand on it. And it says field text. That's how you're going to fill out this stuff in here. Right click on that. Actually, you can just double click on it. And in here, you're going to type bracket 1433. And I think you should try to center that. So I think you're going to have to put some spaces in it and pick OK, and let's see where it went. So it went too far, so I'm going to have to double click on that. Now I know how far I need to come back a ways. So I'm going to backspace. For my scale, I'm going to say 3 space equals space 4 for 3/4. The date, the drafter, that's where your name ought to go, or your initials. You would put the section of your class if you're taking a class. I think ours is 28017. And the sheet is going to be 1 of 1, because this is a 1-sheet drawing. And I would pick OK, and all that stuff will go in there. Now I can still see that bracket 1433 is not centered. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to back off a few more spaces and pick OK. And now it's looking better. Maybe it needs to go one more to the right. But anyway, it's looking pretty good. So I would save this. And at this point, I'm pretty much finished with this drawing. So with that, I'm going to end the video. And good luck on getting yours dimensioned and making it all correct.